Maxi, this was a big chat.
Big chat.
Big chats to be had. I wasn't there.
No. Big chat for me, though.
You didn't invite me.
Didn't invite you. Sorry, Sam. I'll get this one. Don't worry about it.
It's just a band you don't know. It's fine. I'll take care of this one.
I sat down with Sam and his brother Elliott, both of which are from the Rubens. And, I mean, it was a banging episode. We got chatting about their new album, Soda, and it's not at all what I expected from a Rubens album, which is weird to say because I think the Rubens are they've got a pretty varied sound in general, but then this album, there's times that are pushing it beyond even what I expected. But the album's out today. If you're listening on the day this comes out, album's out today. So finish the interview, obviously, and then go listen to the album.
Do you want me to introduce you?
Please.
Without further ado, from his bedroom, it's Max and the Rubens.
Nailed it. Ahead of their fifth studio album, Soda, we are sitting down with Sam and Elliott, two of the fellas behind the iconic Australian band, the Rubens. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hey,
very good.
Well,
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for jumping in. We like to start the show the same way each week by kind of finding out what you're listening to. So what's been spinning in your playlist on Spotify or Apple Music, or maybe you've been having some vinyl on the deck lately?
I'm going to say two, Elliott, and then you're going to be annoyed because I'll probably take your two. I'm going to say Fontaines, and then I'm going to say Bean Magazine.
Oof. Excellent calls.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. We've been, I think it's been a weird thing with Fontaines where everyone's like in our lives separately just been like texting out of the blue, like, does anyone listen to the new Fontaines record? And it's like kind of like creeping into everyone's like psyche very slowly but surely. And it's like, changing our lives. And then also Bean Mag, the band we're touring with, we're a little obsessed with at the moment as well.
We spoke to Bean Mag last week up here at Big Sound, and we saw them a couple of times live. And I'll tell you what, those guys just have some raw energy that I haven't seen in a band in a long time. It's so good to see them like just doing their thing on stage.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, they got a sound that's their own, and also I think, like you said, like high energy live. But then also like we've had the opportunity to actually hang with them outside of outside just seeing them play live, and they're lovely, sweet people. So it's just like the cherry on top. Yeah.
And they haven't been doing it for that long as well, which is crazy impressive. Like to be at Big Sound, having a big crowd, and there's just three of them. There's no track. There's nothing else going on. There's no bells and whistles. Just three people playing music, and it's pretty wild.
It's a good energy. Do you guys, like, when you're picking supports for the tours, is it largely like how much of it is like who's a good hang? Like what's that in proportion of everything?
It definitely helps, but often like you don't know. Like I feel like with Australian artists, it's pretty rare that you don't get a good hang. Like everyone's pretty down to earth and chill and fun. We haven't really had any bad experiences. So it's for us, it's mainly about the music, and then we just hope that they're cool to hang with after the show, basically.
I mean, like added bonus if they play good music, I suppose. Let's chat Soda. It's your fifth album. I think it's safe to say it's the most varied album, Rubens album to date. In the first three songs, like, you go from this almost kind of semi-ambient sound through like stomp box distortion on the guitars. And then by the end of that third track, you're kind of getting into something that's funky, strutty, almost a bit like 70s pop there. What's kind of the musical thesis that brought all of these tracks together into one album for you guys?
I think it's it is sort of like the culmination of all the sounds that we've explored over the last sort of 12 years. We did make a conscious effort while writing to bring guitars back as sort of more of a focal point when starting a song. So building tracks, like building a demo around the guitar again, rather than starting with something else. If you really listen to it, you'll notice that there's stuff from all our previous records, whether it's the Hog guitar pedal that Zach started using a few records ago that sounds like a synth, that's still in there, but we've also gone back to straight dry heavy guitars in songs like Black Balloon and Soda and stuff. So I think it is a culmination of everything we've done up to this point. And I think, I don't want to go into the next record yet, but I think we're sort of the next one. I think we kind of plan on having it being less varied and really focusing on something. Because it's a lot of fun to explore and try different things, and it was really fun on making this album. It does create a pretty good opportunity for us live as well, in that we've got this new record where we can pick and choose. If we need a certain moment for the set, we've got a bunch of different moments on that record that we can use to our advantage.
You mentioned there Soda, the title track. I want to stop in for a second if we could with that one. I don't want to spoil the surprise for listeners because it's beautiful and it's absolutely not what I would have expected on a Rubens record. First off, I mean, was Kanye like guest producing on this track? Like, it's out of
Thank
nowhere.
you. That one started with I bought a new synth before we started making this record, like an analog synthesizer. And often when you have a new toy, it just creeps its way onto the music that you're making because you want to use something new and fresh. So it's on a few different songs on the record, and yeah, that one started with me just noodling on a few different synth patches. You hear it at the start of the record. Um, it also started when I actually literally I had a glass of soda water and I put it up to the microphone and recorded the bubbles of the soda water, and then just started the song and called it Soda. But yeah, it just happened kind of organically. Like it felt like it needed to become more and more chaotic. And I guess it's quite a simple song in that it doesn't really have it has two parts and it just builds and builds and becomes more and more chaotic and wild, which will be really fun live. But yeah, I don't know where that one came from, but it started with a weird little synth line.
It's Rubens featuring like Schweppervesance. You just needed to capture that all in one. Was it like, given how varied the tracks are, and especially Soda, like I would say like the standout of the most far removed from what I would call like a traditional Rubens sound, was there ever hesitation about what would make the track listing? Sorry.
To be honest with you, like if you listen back to our other records, there's always moments on the records where we've done something different to the stuff that we've done before. Like I feel like we've given ourselves quite a wide berth with our fans by having them expect the unexpected on a record. And that's been the case probably since the second record, where there's always a few that sort of we've gone and tried something different, which is it puts you in a great place as an artist because you're not boxed into a certain expectation of your sound. Um, so I guess I don't know. What do you think, Elliot?
I think like I mean, we always kind of go back to a rule, like when we are working on towards a record, we write heaps and heaps of music and then whittle it down to what's the record going to be, and we pick our favorite songs, and certain songs, might be quite different to others, and then we always ask ourselves the question, like, is it a Rubens song? And we kind of have started to go with the rule that if Sam's singing on it, it's a Rubens song, and the rest will just kind of make it so. Like everyone else brings their parts to the record, whether Zach's playing guitar that sounds like an organ, or we're leaning into more synth sounds rather than organs and piano on this one. If Sam's singing on it and everyone else is doing their part to make it still be a band, then it's going to be a Rubens track. And then in the end, if it's our favorite, then it's going to make the record. And if the song has a moment on the record and makes sense, then it's going to be on the record. And I think like we've like 5 albums in, I think we kind of have the luxury to kind of trust our gut and know that if we like it, then at least some fans will follow us along, and trust us probably when it comes to the record.
It sounds like I'm looking forward to some some top lines from Sam on an EDM record, or you guys getting behind some heavy rapped bars and just making a Rubens record with something entirely different.
We'll see.
Consider it.
One of the other things you mentioned there is like it's this record kind of does dip back into the evolution of the sounds of across the records and across the discography that you guys have put out, and there's songs that are from earlier sessions that weren't necessarily written for this record in mind. Was it open season? Any unreleased Rubens material was available to be picked from, or were you just like, oh, that one suits best?
It's hard because we've got a huge demo folder that hasn't been used up to this point because you always write like 20 something songs for a record and it ends up being 12. So there's a bunch of really good songs, I think, in that folder, but it just feels like that was a moment in time, that we still have better stuff in us, unless the song in that demo folder from 5 years ago, we listen to it again, we're like, holy shit, why didn't we release this? This is amazing, which is possible, like, or maybe we can rework it a little bit because there's something good in there. That's possible to do, but for us, it's the joy of songwriting that we're trying to do, right? So we don't really want to like waste an old song when we could write a new one.
You just want to flex that muscle again.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're launching the record with one of the best tour schedules we've seen in a long time. You're going to pretty much every capital city and a fair few regionals between September and November. But when the album drops, you'll be tearing it up at the Fourth Pub in Tassie. Anything special for that, first big night on the tour? Anything that fans in Tassie can expect?
We've been talking about the set list for months and months and months now. So, I mean, like five albums in, we have a lot of material to choose from. And we always get excited when a new record is out because we have certain songs that we're sick of playing and we feel like maybe just aren't doing, we're just getting through, in a live set, and those songs get to be jettisoned and then we bring some new ones in. So it's going to be, I mean, it's probably going to be our biggest set yet, and also our most heavy hitting. Yeah, we're very excited. We've been rehearsing our butts off, and I think I hope that it's gonna pay off at Fourth. And if not, by the end of the tour, we'll be really good.
That's hot tip. Get the last tickets. There'll be a well machine by the end of the show.
Well, if you want to come see a train wreck, come to the first shows. Some people like those better.
The one of the tour dates, details haven't been locked in because you're giving away a chance for a listener to score a Rubens show in their backyard for 20 mates. I'm sure it's been a hot minute since you guys have done a backyard show just to, in someone's patio. Are you going to be bringing the full pyrotechnics and the full amp stacks for that one, or just a couple of little setups?
It depends on the noise restrictions in that person's backyard. Depends if it's residential or in the country. It might have to be an acoustic set. But yeah, it's exciting. Like, I'm just excited for hopefully like a real diehard fan to get like a cool moment for us to sort of like individually thank them and their mates for like their support. Hopefully, ideally, it's someone who's been there and knows like our back catalog and stuff. Yeah, so it'll be really cool. I reckon I'll be more nervous for that than like any of the other shows, to be honest.
When you have to meet someone and they're offering like just a glass of water out of the fridge, you're like, oh shit, the pressure's on here. I gotta fucking get into it.
Big time.
So you guys work as Purple Patch as well, which is a label that you guys run, uncovering young and upcoming artists. As artists yourselves, and now as A&R reps for a label, what do you look for when you're working and uncovering these young and upcoming musicians?
I mean, for me, it's like you talk about with Bean Magazine, like it's an undeniable something that they've got going on. It's very hard to put your finger on. I think personally for me, it's always about the songwriting, and in particular, I think it's about the vocal. I'm a singer, but I just think about all my favorite bands, and you could hear one bar of any song, and you'd probably be able to tell you. I could tell you who it is. So it's having like a unique vocal, and as a band, a unique sound overall. I mean, working with solo artists is cool, but I think as a label, like right now, if you look at the charts, bands aren't getting anywhere near in those charts, and I think I'd love to see full bands getting back up there. So I think focusing a bit more on guitar music and songwriters, that would be sort of what we're looking for. But yeah, it's really hard to work out who's got it and who doesn't. It's just a feeling,
I think like the cool thing about it is you realize that like to play the A&R role, or at least like in finding new music, you don't actually have to think about it. Like if you've grown up being a music fan and you've always been sharing music with friends that like pricks your ears up and stuff, you've kind of already got that muscle working. And the less you think about it, the more like a song just hits you, the more you're trusting your gut and your instinct in that an artist is something special that at least you like, maybe a lot of other people will like as well. And to be able to like be working on the other side of it now and maybe find someone else's new favorite artist and big them up is so cool.
I think like one other thing that I think is really important with up and coming artists is just the drive and commitment, because it's a really hard thing to do and you've got to love it. Touring is hard. The money is shit for a long time. So it's like finding artists who are ready to sort of work with you and stick in there for like what could be a few years before they really see what they want to see. But you just want to see them like be excited at every moment, every milestone. It's kind of fun for us to sort of be along that journey with them as well, because all those milestones that we're hoping to get for them happened to us 12 years ago. So now we're sort of just like vicariously living through them as they get their first, first Triple J thing or their first podcast or whatever,
Does it ever feel like, now that you're doing it from the other perspective, there's a weird pressure on you guys to kind of, make the right choices with these artists and sort of not lead them down a path, like the wrong kind of path in a way that you might want to have avoided when you were starting up?
I think we've definitely got like knowledge to sort of help them with, especially when it comes to sort of like touring, mental health, all the sort of everything that comes along with being a touring artist. We can definitely give advice there. But a lot of these artists really are quite switched on, and it's more about just being there for them, keeping the vibes high, because they're just going to keep writing music, and it doesn't have to be that hard. But we're definitely there to sort of just give them tips and tricks of how to sort of keep it together over a career.
I mean, you sound like you've got the good mentor hat on. I like that. I like that's a good way to bring him in. Finally, you guys were up here in Brizzy for the Dolphins Broncos game a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And you're back here in Brizzy on October 4th, just before the grand final. Unfortunately, no Bronx Nation, no Finns up in the finals. So who's the hot tip from the boys on who's going to make the granny?
I mean, I've become mates with Ryan Pappenhausen, so as soon as the Finns weren't in there anymore, I think, and obviously it seems like a pretty obvious option as well. Melbourne are looking pretty good, so I'd love to see Melbourne. But you never can write off the Panthers. Like they're a scary side, so we'll see.
I like that. It's a good safe bet for Melbourne, at least.
Yeah.
Well, the Rubens' latest album, Soda, is out on September 20th, so listen wherever you get your music for their most dynamic album yet. They're hitting the road to head around the country with the Moving Stills and Bean magazine, with stops in Tassie, Sydney, Brisbane, Canberra, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth from September 20 through to October 25th. Then they're back out on a regional tour of Dubbo, Orange, Albury, Mildura and Swan Hill through November. Head to therubensmusic.com to find dates and shows closest to you. Sam, Elliott, thanks so much for taking some time to have a chat to us today.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for having us.